I started my blog, INFJ Woman, and my Instagram account in December of 2018. I had been through a few really tough years, and finding my personality type really helped me a lot. I started my blog and my Instagram because I wanted to share everything that I'd learned. I thought that maybe I could help at least one person. From the beginning, we've been talking about creating a community specifically for INFJs. And I'll be honest, I've tried and I feel like I've failed a few times. I've tried a few different platforms. Some of them were really complicated to use, some of them were really expensive, but none of them were right. But the desire for this community never stopped. So many people mention it to me on social media all of the time. I knew that I had to keep looking, I had to keep trying. So recently I made some improvements to my website, and while I was doing that, I discovered that I could add a members area with a forum and groups to my website really pretty easily. And these groups have been updated so well that they look a lot like Facebook groups, and they function pretty much the same way too, but you don't have to deal with all the issues of Facebook. When I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been looking for. This is what we need. This is what we've been talking about and what we've wanted for so long. So I'm really, really happy to finally tell you that I found a solution and I know it's gonna work. I've created a community that's specifically for INFJs. It's a place for INFJs to share our ideas and experiences and to come together and support each other in a way that only INFJs can. I truly believe that you're gonna find some of your best friends in this community. I've found some of my best friends through my blog and through my Instagram account, so I know this to be true from personal experience. Having INFJs as friends is a whole different experience than having other personality types as friends. They just get you. It's that connection that you've been looking for. It's that understanding that you're looking for. So the best part of the INFJ community is that it's free, and it always will be. Head over to infjwoman.com/INFJ community to join the conversation today.
I believe the biggest problem in the world is that people don't understand themselves enough. This show is designed to help you understand your INFJ personality, heal from your past, and create a life that you love. I'm Sarah Kuhn, and this is the Quiet Ones podcast.
Hi there. I know it's been a while. I know. I've had so much stuff going on. A little bit more than a month ago, the company that I worked for decided that everybody needed to come back to the office right away. And it was like they told us on Monday, and then the next Monday, they wanted us back in the office. And this is after 2 years of working from home, because of the pandemic. For me, as an introvert, I really, really, really loved working from home. It was something that I wish that I had gotten to do for years, and that I really hope that I'll get to do in the future too. Working from home it's so much better than working in an office, because in our office, there's a lot of cubicles and there's a lot of noise, a lot of people who are more extroverted, who like to just walk around and chat with people. And all of that caused me so much stress that I didn't even realize, because I've always worked in an office, since I was in high school, which is 18, 19, probably 20 years now. So it was just such a normal thing that I didn't even realize the stress that it caused me until I had the opportunity to work from home. Working from home, I can control my own environment. I can decide if I want to listen to music or a podcast, or if it's one of those days where I just want everything to be quiet. I don't have to listen to other people's conversations or listen to the phone ring. There's nobody here that is slamming doors or yelling at people or stomping through the office or whatever it may be. So having that control over my environment was such a big thing to me. And then, of course, there's the extra layer of going back to work in an office building that there are other tenants in the building. Some of them are doctors' offices. There are people going in and out of the building all day long, and you don't have any control of that. You don't know who those people are or who they've been exposed to. So that was a whole nother level of like anxiety for me. I understand that there are a lot of people who had to work through the pandemic, who had to work like in the public through the pandemic, especially those, who worked in hospitals and nursing homes and things like that. And I so much appreciate those people. My mom is a nurse, and she has worked in a nursing home throughout, most of the pandemic. And I have a lot of respect for those people, because I really got comfortable in my little bubble, and having to go out and go back out, I guess, into working in an office. It was a lot of stress. It was definitely a lot of stress. I wrote a blog post about it because it took me a couple of weeks to work through, being overwhelmed and how I was feeling, and trying to get comfortable, and then readjusting to being in the office, because it took a lot more out of me than what I was expecting. I don't have a stressful job per se. I sit behind a desk all day because I work in marketing and graphic design. So it's not like, I've been a server at a restaurant in the past where you have to run around all the time. I've worked in retail in the past as well. And it's stressful, standing up on, especially like on concrete floors, and then, moving a bunch of items and stuff. But my job now isn't like that. It's like I sit behind a desk for 8 hours. And so I wasn't expecting to be exhausted when I got home. But every day that I went into the office, when I came back home, I was just like so exhausted that I laid down on the couch and fell asleep. And when I woke up, it was time to go to bed. And I was like, just having to deal with all of that and saying, okay, there are things in my life that I have to cut out for right now, until I can get adjusted. So I wrote a blog post about all of that, just in case you're in that situation too, and you're feeling a lot of stress, and to share with you what I did, and give you some tips on how to transition back to the office. I'll include a link for that blog post in the show notes. It's on my blog though, which is infjwoman.com. So today I wanted to talk to you about the lies that we tell ourselves as INFJs. This has been something that's been on my mind for a while, something that's really important to me. Are you an honest person? I bet you just said yes, because I know that I did. I like to think that I'm mostly honest, but the truth is, I'm kind of a terrible liar. I lie constantly, but not to others, only to myself. And I never really thought that it mattered if I was lying to myself. Then I read a book that changed my whole perspective about lying. Lying to yourself is actually the worst kind of lie. If you can't even be honest with yourself, then how can you expect to be honest with anyone else? So on the podcast today, I want to take a look at some of the ways that we lie to ourselves as INFJs, and the effect that it has on us and on other people too. Lie number one. This is probably the most common lie for everyone in the whole world, all of the personality types. It is, I have read the terms and conditions. Have you read the terms and conditions? Like, really? I don't. I never do. I always check the little box that says that I have and that I agree, simply so I can move on to the next thing. But I never read them. Not when I bought my car, rented my apartment, bought my iPhone, or signed up for iTunes. which is now called Apple Music. I get burned by lying about this so often. I read a story that, of course, I can't find right now, that says that you don't own music or movies or TV shows that you buy on iTunes or Apple Music. You pay for and are given a license to use those things for as long as Apple has a license to give them to you. I was wondering why I had bought some songs and movies that had disappeared from my library, and now I know. It makes sense. Why would they tell us that we are, quote unquote, buying music and movies when we're simply renting it? I don't know. You'll have to ask them. The truth is that no one reads the terms and conditions, but everyone gets outraged when they get burned by not reading them. Will you still, quote unquote, buy music from Apple if you knew ahead of time that you're simply renting it? And yes, before you go all scorched earth on Apple, rest assured that Amazon and Google and Spotify and all of your favorite music places, they do the same thing. Would reading the terms and conditions change your behavior or your outrage? Does it really matter? The conclusion that I came to is, for me, it doesn't really matter. I would still do the same thing. So lie number 2, I'd love to go. I'm really good at saying this to others, but I also think it when I start making plans for some trip or outing, when I buy plane tickets, every time I buy concert tickets. At the time that I make the plans, maybe I actually feel like going somewhere. But inevitably, when the appointed time comes, I never feel like going. I always hope that something happens and the date is canceled, no matter how bad I wanted to go when I bought the tickets or made the plans. The good news for me, at least, is that I generally make myself go, and about 80% of the time, I'm usually happy that I did. Lie number 3 is I don't need help. I can do everything by myself. I don't need help. I say this when I'm overwhelmed at work, when I'm carrying all the grocery bags up the stairs at once, when I'm looking for the coffee shop that Surrey swears is on the right-hand side of the road, and when I'm cooking Thanksgiving dinner while everyone else watches the football game in the living room. Asking for help seems weak to me. It's like the admission that I don't know how to figure things out all by myself, that I'm not smart enough, even when being intelligent won't help you lift something heavy or see addresses better. And so the lie carries on while I struggle. Maybe it's the way that I was raised, but it's a really difficult cycle to break out of. Asking for help always seems like defeat in my mind. The next lie is kind of the same. It's very similar. It's okay, I'm fine. I say this a lot, I'm fine, everything's fine, it's okay. Is it ever really okay when you say it's okay? Because in my book, that's code for it's not okay, but I'm not gonna say that. I'm just gonna act like I'm fine and then I'll fall apart later when I'm by myself. When I was growing up, there was an understanding in our house that if you have a problem, it's your problem. You work it out. If I have a problem with you, it's still your problem and you still need to work it out. It was like Fight Club. Nobody talks. Not about the problem, not to each other. Nothing gets worked out. Nobody talks about anything. You just act like you're okay. And if you're not okay, then you go away from everyone else until you're ready to act like you're okay again. It was exhausting. You can only squish so many problems down until there's no more room to squish, and they all come out with a massive explosion. But again, you act like you're okay, whether it was you who exploded or someone else. Now, I'm not advocating that you do this because obviously there are so many flaws with this. It's just one of the lies that I tell myself. And I feel like a lot of people have this problem. We'll get to the antidote soon, I promise. Lie number 5, the life lie. We've spoken about life lies in a previous podcast, episode 108, that I'll link in the show notes. The worst of all lies is the life lie. Tell me if this sounds even a little bit familiar. You love to daydream, creating the perfect world in your imagination. You have the perfect body that's easy and simple to maintain. You always look your best in the latest clothes that are comfortable but stunning. Your hair never misbehaves and your makeup is simple but gorgeous. That guy that you're crushing on only has eyes for you. He says all the right things at all the right times. He takes you in his arms whenever you need comforting and makes you feel adored and understood. You build a life together in your picture-perfect house with the French windows, marble countertops, reclaimed hardwood floors, complete with a white picket fence. It's perfect, especially compared to what your life actually looks like. Your sparsely furnished 600 square foot apartment in the dodgy part of town, that job you can't stand with the boss who talks down to you, and your crush who can't be bothered to even notice you exist. But you're crafty, right? And you're determined. You decide you want the life that you've imagined for years because you're just arrogant enough to believe that everything you know now is all you need to know for all time, and this life you dream about must be the best thing for you because it's all you want. It's all you think about. The English poet John Milton referred to this belief like this: all I know is all that needs to be known. Maybe you're determined enough to move across the country for this dream of yours. You give up so many things. Guys who are great, but not really dreamy. Friends who are your kind of weird, but not who you dream of being seen with. Opportunities that would take you in a totally different direction from your chosen desire. The list goes on and on. You stubbornly cling to what you have already decided is for your highest good. Maybe you spend 5 years trying to make this dream a reality. Maybe you spend 10 years, or 20 years, or 30 years. But try as you might, things just don't fit into place in real life. At this point, you have a choice. Are you going to keep pushing for what you thought was best? Or are you going to admit that you don't know what's best, that you need help, that there could be more to life than what you currently know, or than what you knew when you created this dream life and decided that it was the only thing you could ever want? I've been there, facing that same dilemma so many times. I've coached so many INFJs who are in this situation too, especially when it comes to their career. They decided in high school or college that they were going down one path, and now it just doesn't feel right anymore. But they don't know what else to do. They feel like they have invested so much time and so much money and so much effort into this one decision that they need to make it work. They have to make it work. But do they really? I decided I was going to be an engineer when I was 15 years old. 15. Now that I'm 36, 15 seems like just a baby. I had no idea what life was or how to live it, but I remained committed to that decision for nearly 13 years. I was committed even though I didn't like it, even though it wasn't what I thought it was, even though I really wanted to do something else. I was embarrassed. I felt like if I said I didn't want to do it anymore, then I would be admitting that I had failed, that I wasn't smart enough or tough enough, and that just wasn't acceptable to me. I had defined my intelligence by the classes that I took in college and the degree that I would get. If I wasn't going to be an engineer, then I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know how people would perceive me or how I would deal with their disappointment. I didn't know how I would deal with my own disappointment. I was so disappointed that I had wasted all of the time, 10 years in college, over $70,000, money that I didn't have to pay back. And all of the effort, all of the expectation, it was all gone. Now I had to start over with something new. And that was even worse of a thought for me. The Bible tells us that pride goes before the fall. Whether you're religious or not, I'm sure we can all agree that too much pride, too much belief in only yourself and your current knowledge is a bad thing. It's the thing that caused Lucifer to fall from heaven. It's the source of conflicts and regimes that have killed hundreds of millions of people in the past 100 years alone. It's the singular source of multitudes of evil that exist in the world today. For me, it's been the end of so many friendships, the termination of so many projects, and so many desires in my life. So what's the antidote? What's the solution? What makes all of it better? The antidote is the curiosity about the truth. When you've been lying to yourself for so long, you have to start investigating what the truth actually is. It's admitting that you don't know all there is to know. It's looking for more information than what you already know. It's opening your eyes and your mind to new ideas and new information. Nietzsche said that a man's worth was determined by how much truth he could tolerate. How much truth can you tolerate? Enough to even admit that you're lying to yourself? I couldn't tolerate that much when I started down this path. It was too much. I found myself in a painful place where facing the fact that the dream was a lie felt like the end of everything. What was the point of going on? I spent days, months, wondering if there would ever be a point to my life, or if it was simply meant to be one of those painful lessons after another painful lesson, leaving me feeling dumber and dumber continually. The dream gave me a sense of control over my life. And when that was gone, life ceased to be worth living. When you're in that position, the antidote is surrender. And oh, surrender is difficult when control means life. Surrender is uncertain. It's dangerous. It's opening yourself up to the possibility that you may not get what you want, even though you might get something better. You're willing to sacrifice the better for the dream, no matter how better the better actually is. Last year, I joined a support group that has a list of steps that everyone has to work through. It's the path to happiness, so they say, or some sort of facsimile of it. So we worked the steps. Step 1 seemed pretty harmless enough. Admit that you are powerless. Well, my life has already proved that. I've pretty much accepted that I'm already powerless. Step 2 is a belief in a higher power. I thought I was good there too. I was raised in church, and though I don't go to church now, I certainly believe that there is a higher power that watches over and protects me. I've seen evidence of it in my life, and I'm certain that it's true. Step 3 for me was a million times harder than I thought it would be. Step 3 is surrender your life to your higher power. If control is life, then surrender is, well, something much less than life. It's pain. It's terror. It's the horror of accepting that control isn't life at all. It's an illusion that you've believed for far too long. The jump from control to surrender seems impossible to make. It's jumping off of a cliff where landing is shielded from your view beneath a dense fog of uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen. You just jump into the fog and hope for the best. Gabby Bernstein says, to begin the practice of allowing, I must get out of the way and let spirit give me direction. When I truly surrender my desires to the universe or to your favorite higher power, a mighty force of faith can set in. Faith for me has been something that I always thought that I had. I was baptized at 10 years old, went to church school for most of grade school, not only attended church, but was deeply involved in the work and mission for years. I went to work at the church when I was 16, and I went to England to volunteer for ministry when I was 22. I was convinced that my life would be devoted to the church at that point in my life. But as often as the case, things happened that put me on a totally different path. I realized that I hadn't found God in church, and I began to see that the people that I trusted to show me this higher power were completely unworthy. I expected way too much of them and began to question my faith and my place in the world again. Now, 14 years later, sometimes I wonder if I truly know what faith is, what surrender is. Have I ever really surrendered, or was it all just childish obedience? Do I really know my higher power, or have I just accepted what others have told me? How do you learn how to surrender at nearly 40 years old? Here's the difficult part. At the end of the day, whatever conclusion that you come to about yourself and your life, it's your responsibility. You get to choose the life that you have. You get to choose how you look at your circumstances. You get to choose if you're a victim or an overcomer. You get to choose if you're going to accept what others tell you or if you're going to make your own way. It's not popular today to say that your life is your responsibility, but it's true. We don't all have the same opportunities from the start. Some of us have to work harder than others to get to where we want to be, but ultimately the choice is yours. You can complain about how difficult your life is because of other people. And oh, let me tell you, I love to complain. Or you can get up and get going to get what you want. The older you get, the more you'll realize that life is very, very short. You don't have all the time that you think that you do. So the more time that you spend complaining and blaming, the less time you'll have left for actually living. You can't change other people, the way they think or the things that they do. You know this is true because you've tried to make a change in your own life, a change that you want to make. You know that changing just this one thing would make your life better. Maybe you want to quit smoking or drinking or quit eating sugar or quit drinking soda, which I call pop. It feels impossible, right? Mark Twain said, quitting smoking is easy. I've done it 1,000 times. I think quitting sugar is easy too, because I've done it probably way more than 1,000 times. And if you're anything like me, you've probably struggled with just one of these things for years. If you struggle to make a change that you want to make, imagine how difficult it is to ask someone else to change something that they don't want to change. You can only control what you think and what you do. So you can wait for the world to change and hope that it changes the way that you think that it should, or you can be the change that you wish to see. You can take responsibility for your life. You can tell the truth. You can start with that lie that you've been telling yourself for years. You don't like your job. You're not satisfied with your marriage. You hate your apartment. You want more out of life. It's not what you thought it was going to be. You need more. More connection, more meaning, more hope, more happiness, more purpose. It's extremely brave to admit that you're not where you want to be. It's the first step to getting what you truly need in your life. It's the signal to the universe or your higher power that you're ready for a change, that you want to do something else. I hope that you're brave enough to make that admission. I hope that you're brave enough to tell yourself the truth and to start leaning in to what it is that you actually really want. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a review wherever you listen to the podcast. It helps other people to be able to find us. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you again next week. Hi there! I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm working very hard to produce content that will help you, and I really, really appreciate your support. Also, if you want some more inspiration, check out this video right here.